So Lewis Hamilton, it's fair to say, was absolutely fuming after the Spanish Grand Prix this weekend. He ended up finishing in 6th place, which doesn't sound that bad, especially compared to some of the results that he's had this season. But he described this weekend in Catalonia as the worst race that he has ever experienced in his time in Formula 1. Of course, Hamilton's been in Formula 1 now for nearly 20 years, racing in the Premier class of motorsport ever since 2007. His time at Ferrari has been very up and down. There's been some really big highs, like he just winning China in the sprint race, also getting a podium at the sprint in Miami, but there's been some real low points as well. Although, to be fair, Ferrari in recent times in the triple header overall, I'd say were quite good. Yeah, they were poor in qualifying at Imola, but they recovered to some good point scoring places by the end of that race. They qualified very well in Monaco, and Hamilton, had he not blocked Max Verstappen during qualifying, I think would have probably got a higher place than 5th during the Grand Prix. And in Spain, you know, their result again as a team was not too bad if you take things into perspective. Charles Leclerc stood on the podium and got 3rd place while Hamilton was in 6th. But when you consider that Nico Hülkenberg finished ahead of Sir Lewis Hamilton, finishing in 5th after the penalty was applied to Max Verstappen in what is the slowest car on the grid. I don't think anybody will deny that. You can see why he was a bit annoyed, but his responses were incredibly emotional, and honestly, it kind of took me aback. I was expecting some strong opinions from the likes of Verstappen and George Russell after what happened, but I really was not expecting Hamilton to come out not really swinging, but having a really awkward interview. I think it was Rachel Brooks who did the interview. I know she interviewed Russell and Max Verstappen for Sky Sports F1 here in the UK. But like I said, it was not a good race for Hamilton, and you know, he really did let his feelings be very clear. Now, the race started pretty good for him. He got past George Russell at the start to make it a Ferrari 4-5, I think it was at that time. Got ahead of the Mercedes basically, which was going to be their main competition for the day. He ended up passing Andrea Kimi Antonelli late on because Kimi Antonelli did of course retire with mechanical issues, but the fact at the restart that he was, you know, overtaken by Nico Hülkenberg on, I believe, the same tyres. I mean, I think Hülkenberg might have had fresher softs because he only got into Q1 compared to Hamilton, who got all the way to Q3. So even though Hamilton, I believe at that time, if I'm not mistaken, was on the soft tyres, he would have been on tyres that were worn out a little bit more, although not significantly so. He should have still been able to run very hard. But I think what probably irked him the most is the fact that he had to get moved out of the way to let Charles Leclerc go through, because Leclerc, quite frankly, was faster than him this weekend. It was the correct move by Ferrari to use team orders. If anything, they should have done it a lap earlier when they were battling for, at that time, what was it, 4th, 5th, something like that. So let me just go through what Hamilton said, though, during this interview. So the interviewer asked, tricky afternoon for you, and then you got stuck on used tyres at the end. I guess you were a bit of a sitting duck there. A bit frustrating, was it? Hamilton responded, everyone was on the same tyres. Then the interviewer said, where was the pace though? Hamilton did not respond to that. The interviewer followed up by saying, you were talking about no rear grip fairly early on, and that was the whole story, was it? Hamilton said, for half of the race. The interviewer then asked, in the second stint you were able to keep the gap. Did the car feel better in the early stages of the race, or was it just the others who were managing? Hamilton said, I have no idea why you'd say that. The interviewer then asked, not a single clue with all your experience. Hamilton said, that was the worst race I've experienced ever. The interviewer then later asked what was the plan between now and Canada in terms of car development. Hamilton didn't respond to that. Yeah, he is I mean, listen, I'm not going to hate on Hamilton because honestly, I don't think he did too bad of a job during the Spanish Grand Prix. Yeah, he didn't do a good job in terms of his performance compared to Leclerc. Leclerc was better than him that weekend, and that's going to annoy him. And I think the fact that he was passed by Hülkenberg really hurt him. Hülkenberg, by the way, I'll do a separate video in which will be out either at the same time of this or maybe a little later, around the same sort of time anyway. But, you know, he did an incredible job to get 5th place in that Sauber, but that's going to annoy him. That's not where he wants to be. He wants to be up with the front runners. He wants to be challenging Leclerc for that podium, but as it was, he was some way off. He just could not get his tyres fired up at the restart for whatever reason. I don't know what happened to him. But yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. I know a lot of you guys are very much got strong opinions on Sir Lewis Hamilton. I want to hear what you have to say about this one. As always, like, share, comment, subscribe as always if you want to see more like this, and have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world today, guys, and we'll see you very soon.